It was the year of fire.
The year of destruction.
The year we took back what was ours.
It was the year of rebirth.
The year of great sadness.
The year of pain.
And a year of joy.
It was a new age. It was the end of history.
It was the year everything changed.
The year is 2261. The place, Babylon 5.
Hello and welcome to Chatz, the television podcast, Season 6, Chatzylon 5. My name is Alan.
And I told you, Mr. Morden.
Whoa.
This is the last time. An empty eye sees through to an empty heart. And this glass of Corona Rita is empty. Now refill my glass, and I will then decide if you are still worth keeping around. Ah, Minister Magellan.
Oh no.
So glad you could join us here at the Applebee's.
Oh, hey, Londo.
Welcome.
It's good to see you. I hope you haven't heard the things that I've said about how both I love you and I sort of pity you.
I read something about something owned man in space.
Oh boy, well, you're going to hear a lot more of that today, my friend.
Yeah? Oh, sorry, Londo had to go accept accepted
a Peabody Award?
Yeah,
What are you
exactly.
saying?
No, he's like, somebody was like, hey, can you take this briefcase? I'll be right back. And he's in an airport, and now he has to deal with a stranger's
that's tough.
briefcase.
Yeah, now you got to talk to security and all that.
Did I tell you? I did tell you that happened to me at the bus station recently.
Yeah,
Not to
you
me.
told me.
And then the police were like, dude. Come on.
Come on. This is like, it's 18 years after 9/11 at this
Yeah.
point. Like, you should have learned the new rules.
We have unspoken rules about bags and not touching them if they're not yours.
Well, they're also spoken over the loudspeaker, so...
That's true. They post it everywhere.
Constantly.
So it goes. This podcast is kind of spoken over loudspeakers if you think about it.
Yeah, in the sense that we speak over each other.
Yeah, constantly.
Is that what you're saying?
Mhm.
Hey, you're Alan, right?
Theoretically.
Hi, man.
Hello.
Do we ever say your name?
No. My name is Alan and blank, Magellan. Come
Oh,
on.
yeah. You always say it. That's
Yeah.
true. Well, hey, how's it going,
Hi.
man?
It's going very well. Thank you for asking. It's
You're welcome.
super early here on Chatzylon 5. We're recording at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. The sun isn't even out yet. No, I'm just kidding. It's a
Yeah,
Saturday morning. We're chilling.
You do hear the birds chirping, but those are night birds.
The dreaded night birds. One of them has descended and stolen my liver.
Yeah.
But it'll grow back in a day or so, and then they'll proceed to steal it over
Yeah.
and over again.
You're like tied to a rock.
Yeah.
With your entrails hanging open for all
Exactly.
eternity.
It honestly, dude, it do be like that.
It do be like that for all times.
It do be like that all the time. Final season, am I right? Just like being tied to a rock and getting your entrails pulled out.
Oh, you're so relatable too.
Dating apps, am I right?
Oh, stop it. You're relating too much.
Sorry, I'm too related. I'm too relatable. We're related now.
I can't take all these. I can't. You're my uncle now.
Oh, shit. I'm family now. This.
You're your family. This is Chatz television podcast.
When you're Chatz, this is family.
What do we do? Can you tell them who we are and what we do every time? we're
Well,
here?
generally, we are Magellan and Alan. We watch TV shows. We watch 2 episodes of them a week. And this is Chatzylon 5, where we watch 2 episodes of Babylon 5 a week.
Yeah.
This week we watched Season 4, Episode 5, The Long Night, as well as Season 4, Episode 6, Into the Fire. The Long Night was written by Jumbo Mumbo Strumbo. It was directed by John Lafia, who is a first-time director. He'll go on to direct another episode in Season 4.
Good for him. Glad to hear
It,
he's getting work.
I'm so glad to hear he's getting work. That's true. It aired January 27th of 97, so we're officially in 1997, which is great.
Yes, great year. Huh?
Welcome.
The Clinton administration
Oof,
is
dude.
continuing
Yeah.
to incarcerate people of color at
Wow.
unprecedented levels.
Ooh, kill him. No, don't kill him.
Yeah. Go ahead,
This-
sorry.
Episode takes place from Wednesday, January the 22nd to Friday, January 24th of 2261. Magellan, what happened in The Long Night?
In this episode, Sheridan continues putting the pieces in place for his final strike against the Shadows and the Vorlons, while Londo and Vir make the final preparations for assassinating Emperor Cartagia. Alan, how does it feel to be doing the last episode of Chatzylon 5 right now? Just to be done. Because we watched the last 2 episodes of the show.
Yeah, it's wild that there's no more. I think there's a glitch in my Amazon that keeps saying that there's other episodes.
There's like, they wrote summaries for episodes that don't exist.
Yeah,
Must be some like fan fiction thing.
I think so. I think it's like a like it's like how they had to get money to do Peacekeeper Wars, but it's not like this. It's not all the same crew of the original show.
That's kind of cool. Yeah. It's cool that those things can happen, I guess. But the original is what really matters.
True, and the original does end with these episodes that we watched this week.
It's done now, so.
Yeah, we talked a lot about how season 4 has just been lightning fast, and as we reach the long night into the fire, it's like, yeah, no, there are arcs that are completely done that we thought were going to last like maybe through the whole series.
Yeah.
And they might have not even been finished in the series, and they're like, no. Now is the time. And so the long night is a lot of really fantastic setup. It's a lot of good pieces being built. As you had mentioned to me over text, there's some stuff in here that like actually makes up for a lot of the annoying war plot lines of the last couple of episodes. Mm-hmm. Immediately what I thought about was we're still in January of 2261. Yeah. And this is the busiest month in history.
Right. In the history of the whole galaxy.
Seriously. Between all the assassinations and wars and conflicts and people moving around, it's like all of this was in January.
It feels like, yeah, all the stuff that's talked about in the intro monologue of like, this is the end of history, this is the year everything changed. Yeah. It's like, this was the month, actually. And then the rest of the year was kind of uneventful. We just sort of hung out.
We went to Cabo. We got boat drinks. We rented a yacht. Garibaldi had an ATV that he kept driving around and beeping.
Yeah, shirtless.
Yeah, he just wouldn't put a shirt on.
Yeah, we all asked him to put a shirt on. We gave him our shirts.
We gave him like a Daffy Duck printed Hawaiian shirt, and he was like, "Nah, what am I gonna do with this?"
Yeah, he just framed it, put it up on his wall,
and he starts like worshiping it.
Yeah, he became a sort of like cultist.
Yeah, he had like a whole faction of people on the island on Cabo.
Anyway, that was what I did on my summer vacation. Yeah, it feels like the biggest stuff is done, right?
Yeah.
Well, after these 2 episodes.
I almost think this stuff could have been saved for the end, and then the other stuff that's left is what could have started the season. Just because like, the scale is different. Like, we're working on a like pan-galactic scale in these episodes, talking about the Vorlons and the Shadows as like people, as real races of people that have interiority and stuff. That stuff is discussed in both of these episodes, and then it's like, oh, also Earth is gonna fight us, and you're like, wait, no, the scaling is all off here.
Yeah, we don't know that yet, by the way, that Earth is gonna fight us.
Well, I mean, they still have problems with Earth, is what we know.
We just
There is this episode starts with there's stuff about giants in the playground at the beginning. There's like good Captain Sheridan recording his final log, being like, this is the last log. The giants are in the playground. And then there's a dark meeting on Centauri Prime with Vir and Londo. And we're like, what's this going to be about? We have Cartagia and his dumb squeaking jester. I really like this scene because this is like the last showcase for Cartagia's shittiness.
Yeah,
and
it's just insanity.
He's being a terrible person, and then the jester like starts impersonating him, and like the whole room freezes. Everyone's like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah.
Is he gonna kill a jester? And he's like, "Nah, he's a good guy. I like that guy. He's making fun of me."
Yeah, and then he kills him later.
And then he does kill him later. Exactly. Cartagia continues to just be the best, right? Like, he's just a real fun.
Yeah, I'm sad to see him go. I mean, he didn't overstay his welcome, which is good, right?
Yeah.
He's for some reason, whenever I see characters like this that are like insane, like the Mad King archetype.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I wish I could play that guy. It seems so fun to be that character. There were moments with Cartagia where I thought he was kind of hammy in a way that was a little too hammy, but I thought he really nailed it in this episode. And you see, I guess we could just talk about this plot first, right? The
Sure.
Londo, Veer, Cartagia,
Tar.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
So essentially what ends up happening in this episode is Londo has lured Cartagia to Narn to try to, or he convinced him last episode, if you go to Narn and execute Jakar, that is like a symbolic act that will demonstrate your godly wisdom and power before you ascend to godhood.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, cool. That sounds good to me. I'm going to do that. At the beginning, in this scene, this court scene, he says to Londo, you're going to be my high priest. Like, we're going to hang out forever. We're going to be best buddies
Eternity
for all
priest.
of eternity. And Londo's like, ooh, actually, I have some plans.
I could move some stuff around.
Yeah,
but...
it's cool. It's fine. It's actually fine.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
And I loved... So there's the assassination plot, and we'll talk about the Jakar parts of this in a second, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But Veer and Londo are co-conspirators in this assassination plot to get rid of Cartagia. There's an amazing, heartwarming kind of scene where Veer brings the weapon to Londo, and he says, like, here's the blade, it's poisonous, this is how it works. The poison will kick in after a certain amount of time. And they just slip in there, by the way, that the Centauri have 2 hearts, which was not something that we knew before.
Did not catch that, yeah.
Because Veer says you need to stab him in the chest between his hearts.
Oh.
And his hearts will stop.
Interesting.
So the Centauri have 2 hearts. Kind of cute. Little world building thing.
2 hearts, 3-headed penis, big hair, can't lose.
Right. And they start riffing, Veer and Londo. This is like the friendliest they've been ever to each other.
It's so nice, and then it's so awkward for a second.
Yeah. They're like, oh, it's a couple of moments long enough for him to say, Londo killed me. And then Veer's like, oh, he's the friend that like takes the bit too far and it's not funny anymore.
Exactly. It's me.
He's like, what if he switches the words around and says, kill Londo?
And Londo's like, dude.
Okay. And then what's so, when you watch that scene, you're like, okay, cute. Like, what narrative purpose did that serve? I don't really know, but I enjoyed it. And what I realized later is that the genius of that scene is that it cements in your mind, like, oh, Londo's the guy that's going to kill Cartagia.
Yes. Well, he literally says, like, Veer's the kind of person who would never pull the trigger.
Yeah.
He's like, you're great, and I love you, and I appreciate the work you've done, but you would never do it.
Yeah.
It's like,
and so you as the viewer leave the scene like, okay, Veer's like in on it, which is a lot for him, and Londo's gonna do the kill, because that's who Londo is. Got it.
He does kills. And
And then in the scene where Jakar is brought before Cartagia, he breaks his chains, which, by the way, such a cool moment because Londo told Jakar, like, we weakened the chains for you, and then the chains got swapped, and Jakar still broke the new strong chains.
He's such a strong boy. Lad.
What a like powerful, glorifying moment for Jakar. That he literally escaped on his own, through his own like sheer force of will.
Right, he didn't need to conspire to do any of this, really. He could have just...
Yeah, he could have just done it.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I like that Cartagia is like, death by vivisection! Like, oh my god, they're gonna like slice Jakar in half.
Yeah.
He cracks the chains in half, he just starts wrecking dudes. He's just like flipping the stalks back and forth and hitting people. And then we have Londo in the back being like, Cartagia, we gotta get out of here. Let's go to this private murder room that I'm gonna take you to. He goes for the knife to stab Cartagia. Cartagia makes him drop it. And you're like, oh no, is the whole plan gonna fail? Are we gonna lose Londo?
Yeah, and I loved... This is like one of my favorite Cartagia moments, I think, where he just totally loses it on Londo. And like starts beating the shit out of him and choking him. And like, he's really insane.
Like he's not finding out that Londo's trying to kill him in all of this.
No, he's just unpredictably volatile.
Right. He's just like, screw you. Why weren't you there? Why didn't you check on the chains? I hate you. Choke, choke, choke.
Yeah.
Londo can't reach the knife. He's swearing that the plan is not going to work. And then, of course, this has to happen.
Right. And it always had to happen. And of course, now we know that it was always going to be this way.
If anything, we were foolish for not knowing it.
Yeah.
Veer comes in from behind and jabs Cartagia in the back.
Oh, man. I sent you an all caps text when that happened.
Yeah. I wrote a lot of S's at the end of my yes in my notes here. I wrote here, before it came up, I said, if Veer does it, I'm deceased instantly. Instantly, okay? And then it did happen, and I was like, no, now I'm dead.
Yeah.
That's
killed
so
him
perfect.
and me.
Yeah, it's so perfect.
Yeah.
What a good way for Cartagia to go. What a good moment for Veer, especially with the Morden scene later. Like, all of this is now on Veer's hands, and he's just like, oh, shit, I did this.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of this season is now becoming about, like, accepting the position that you're in and learning that your responsibility carries weight and your actions are affecting other people in large scale ways, even if you think you're a background player.
Yeah, and like, what does it mean to act with honor? And I think that's going to be a big part of Veer's trajectory from here forward.
Yeah.
It's like he's murdered somebody, and it was like for the greater good, sure. But he's still killed someone. And so how does he reckon with that and keep that from corrupting him? Because I think what Londo acknowledges at the end of this episode is like, Veer, I was really envious of you. Is it the end of this episode that he has that conversation? I think it is, right?
I believe so.
Because Veer like gets drunk and he's like,
yeah, that's like
dialogue.
3 scenes later. Yeah.
He's like, I took a drink for me, and then I couldn't be rude, and I drank Cartagia's drink because he's dead, and then I drank, and I kind of got into this cycle. And
he says, I've been drinking, and he says, I figured it always worked for you, Londo, which is rough. And then he says, how much more before I look in the mirror and don't see myself, which is terrifying. He's lamenting his position in life. He's basically saying, like, I didn't sign up to be part of a conspiracy. I've always wanted to just, like, live a happy life, make a job, work a job that makes money, have kids.
Like, love a wife, and maybe she would love me too.
Yeah.
Like, Veer, buddy.
Veer, you're allowed to be happy.
Yeah.
And Londo, once again, is just seeing a crystal clear reflection of himself in Veer here.
Well,
but like
and even, like, not even himself, like, the person that he realized he gave up on trying to be. Because he thought that you had to be this, like, manipulative, corrupted guy in order to get what you want.
And he tells Veer that there is still hope for you, and that is why I find that I still envy you. Just confirming that, like, there's nothing left for me, man. There's a couple more.
Oh, sorry. So the question with Veer's character from this point forward is, like, he's done a murder.
Mm-hmm. He's done a kill.
He's done a kill. Is he going to embrace that and follow that and just become another, like, Londo type, makes bad decisions for this twisted version of what he thinks the greater good is? Or is he going to reject that and, stay wise? And it remains to be seen.
Dude, it's the really scary thing about there still being a lot of show left is, like, if this was the end of the show, then we could be like, okay, Veer figures it out. Like, choosing to end the show here would be like...
We can choose to have that sort of optimistic spin.
But with a season and 3/4 left, it's like, very unlikely that this just works out cleanly for him, because he's still a character on the show that has to have an arc.
Right, yeah.
I love that they look outside and they see fireworks. They realize that the Centauri realize that they're leaving Narn finally.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was cheesy. There were a couple Veer moments that were a little corny for me.
The fireworks mostly works for me because it's them seeing Centauri Prime on fire.
Well, they're not on. They're on Narn though.
Or well, I guess you're right. So that's true. Never mind. But they're seeing it's the idea of, like, seeing things on fire and being like, oh, it's all up. Is it for good or bad reasons and that kind of thing? Like the mystery of, like, the sky being lit up.
I like the fireworks. What I didn't like was when Veer is at the window and he's like, what was it all for? What was any of it for? Like, come on.
It pushes into a little bit melodramatic. That's the moment I think our thumbnail is going to be from. Our thumbnails have just been Veer shots for the last couple of weeks, which is I'm fine with it.
Fine by me. Yeah.
He's got a great face, Stephen First. He's going like, what was it all for? Before this scene, we get speaking of, like, really clean. with Cartagia murdered, Londo is brought into the council, and they're all like, so I guess you're the boss now? Okay, sounds good. It's like, oh, okay, that wasn't hard at all. And then he's like, they're like, what should we do about the Narn? He's like, get off their planet. They're like, okay, I guess we're done with the Narn.
Yeah.
And you're prime minister now.
It's
like,
so, I
no
really
conflict.
love watching Londo in his element as the kind of like manipulative climber guy. But doing it begrudgingly and kind of hating himself for using his political acumen to put himself forward. Like, I don't think he even had a grand design of becoming prime minister. He seemed kind of surprised that they
that was what they
nominated
gave
him
him
for that.
Yeah, I think by the time he had accepted this assassination plot, he was like, either I die or something else terrible happens. I mean, later in, I think, the second episode, he's like, Veer, just kill me. Like, let's just end it. Because the Vorlons are coming.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we will talk about that. Speaking of people not being happy with what success looks like, Jakar, now free, is in the throne room.
Well, let's talk about Jakar up until then and then get to that scene.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So the first time we see Jakar in the episode is when Londo goes in to check on him.
He's like, you lost an eye? What the heck, dude?
Yeah, well, that's fucked up, man. Sorry about that.
You can't see anymore.
Jakar's like, I can see better than I've ever seen before, blah, blah, blah.
I can see things now that were invisible before. An empty eye sees through to an empty heart.
Fuck. And then he says, your heart is empty, Malari. Did you know that?
Did you know that?
And Londo, I thought Londo was going to say, like, yeah, I do.
Yeah, super did. Been empty.
But he just kind of goes past it and he says, you know, your heart's going to stop beating if you don't do what I need you to do.
Yeah. The Londo and Jakar stuff continues to be so engaging and sad because they both just know, it's like siblings or something. They know how to cut right to each other's core effortlessly.
And it's sort of like, it's interesting because both of them are striving towards self-redemption and the redemption of their society. Because both the Centauri and the Narn are locked into this eternal struggle that is going to destroy them both, right? That's kind of like a theme of Jakar's epiphany, I guess, when he was in his mind and Kosh maybe was his dad or something.
Yeah.
And Jakar, you know, I think he has succeeded in redeeming himself. I think Londo has failed in that sense, or he's still on the path to self-redemption. But it seems like Londo has succeeded in redeeming the Centauri, maybe, through Veer. And Jakar, it looks like, so far has failed in redeeming the Narn.
Right, as it has
as
been
a people.
Yeah, exactly. As has been traditional of them, their relationship, they're having like this. They're going about the same things, but having like opposite results in a lot of ways. Because Londo's plotline definitely feels like the Centauri can live on somewhat peacefully under better rulers and hopefully move somewhere progressive. But Jakar is like, I did all this work so that you guys could free yourselves, and now you're riding in the throne room. Like, what did I fight for?
What a haunting scene, huh? So I guess we can jump to that. So Jakar, basically is like, fuck you, Londo. Like, I'm still going to do your shit, but you are doomed and you are going to hell. And then Londo's like, okay, cool. Well, see you there in the throne room. Jakar breaks his own chains by his own sheer strength. And then, he walks in on the Narn just trashing all of the Centauri stuff that they left behind. And he says, what are you doing? Why are you doing this?
They're celebrating their freedom. They're celebrating liberty.
Yeah, like, we've gotten rid of the Centauri, and now you can help us. You can be the instrument of our vengeance.
Be our king, Jakar, basically.
And Jakar's like, no, guys, like, we need, like, a republic. Remember, we had a republic. It was pretty cool.
I did not remove one dictator from the throne to become a dictator myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great that the Jakar is still thinking in the broad scale of, like, we need political change. We don't just need, like, kill the bad guy, replace him with another guy, because I'm not inherently better than whoever we had before.
Right. And he's realized that like the longevity of the Narn does not depend on destroying the Centauri. The longevity of the Narn as a people depends on them rebuilding and healing themselves, and like finding an inner dignity in peace.
And he encourages them to do that, and then this guy Jalarn, I guess, is like, Jakar, what? This is such a good moment. He's like, Jakar, what have you endured? What have you even endured?
Yeah, where were you, bro?
Where were you? What did you suffer when we were under fire and under the boot of the Centauri? And he doesn't answer. He just cackles.
You have to love the direction of he's like facing away, and he turns, and I think he turns with his eye first, his eye leading, and so his eye patch is revealed as his head is turned.
You're right.
And then he responds, and he's like, "What have I endured?" And yeah, cackles and like laughs his ass off and just leaves.
It's powerful. Sorry, I was watching it back just because it's an extremely good moment.
Yeah.
But
it sort of calls to mind, like, Moses wasn't allowed into Israel kind of thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, you can lead your people out of hell, but you might not be the person who can lead them to the promised land. Like, Jakar's fate might be that he saved them from destruction, and he's going to be misunderstood and thought of as mad. And
he did all this work for to be forgotten, basically.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
It's the rejection of glory too, which is a very like Christian ideology. Mm-hmm. It's like he's not doing this to be king, like Londo is. He's doing this to fix things and then get the hell out of Dodge.
Right. Londo accepts power right away. Mm-hmm. Like he's still locked into that ambition.
He's like, Prime Minister, sure, I can do this.
Reasons, yeah.
Yep. And it's powerful stuff. I mean, this is all happening so quickly, but it all feels like it's earned and it's meaningful, which is really like such a success of the show's format, of its long form format.
Yeah.
No wasted time. We have a whole other plot in this
episode. I know,
episode.
right? Like, what the fuck?
Like, all of that happens. All of this amazing, like, conversation and, like, an assassination and, the re-abdication of duty. And then, like, also Bryan Cranston is here, you guys.
Yeah.
The Babylon 5 stuff starts with Ivanova having a really sad conversation with John about how nobody ever comes back for her when they say they will. Her dad never did. Her mom never did. And so when
her mom, like, came to watch her play and was like, I'll be right there, and then she went and killed herself.
Yeah, exactly. Man. So she's used to people leaving, and so when he's like, we're gonna go on the front lines, I don't want you on there, because he's pulling a Sheridan to Garibaldi thing, being like, I like you and that's why I don't want you to fight. She's like, no, just let me be there, like, I need to be part of this, which is fantastic. But I've seen sort of like long form criticism that they don't do enough with Ivanova in this series, and I think this is like the best stuff we get. Like, she's not necessarily a doer all the time, unfortunately, and that is a little bit of a bummer because there are so many doers on this show, but she is a thinker and a maker. And this idea that like you can still be an important character even if you're not the person with the knife of this episode. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think she's definitely underused, and it feels like a lot of her conflict is internal. Mm-hmm. She's coping with like her psychic abilities. She's coping with herself as a military person and like her religious identity. And Lorianne comments on this. Like, he says that's the language of the mind. What does he say is the language of the mind? Like logic or something? I don't remember.
I don't remember the line.
Yeah, but he says something is the language of the mind. What does your heart say? And then she's like, my heart and I haven't talked in a long time. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I noticed that.
It's like I saw.
Yeah, and so it is kind of frustrating that like the entirety of her character is about these internal struggles that don't often translate into her leading change like in the world around her. But I do think that that's still really important and cool. development that she has.
The Babylon 5 plot, this episode also has a lot of good emotional payoff, not just with Ivanova, but with the introduction of a new member of the Army of Light named Erickson, played by a very young, foppish-looking Bryan Cranston.
Yeah.
He's, like, kind of handsome.
He's, like, always just had a weathered face, huh?
Yeah. This is probably him in his 30s or so. I could probably do the math, but he definitely, like, just looks a little old all the time.
Yeah, he's always had that sort of like chiseled dignity.
Okay, 1997 minus 1956. He's 41 in this.
Really?
Yeah.
Where's Malcolm in the Middle happening? Hasn't happened yet, right?
I think it's happening.
No way. They got the dad. No way did they get the dad from Malcolm in the Middle.
Oh no, 2000.
I was gonna say,
3 years.
what a fucking weird choice that would be. I guess that is Breaking Bad, though, huh?
Yes.
I guess that is what Breaking Bad fully did.
Instead of like going from this dark, like doomed spaceman to a dad, they went from a dad to a doomed drug man. So like, yeah, he's had arcs.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's had quite a career. Yeah, it's great to see him though. I mean, we like him. He's a good actor.
Yeah, he sells it. It's
really
just kind of jarring to be like, oh, that you're gonna become famous.
You're gonna do a lot. Yeah, you're like the guy, even though you're a one-off, like instantly doomed man in this episode. He sells it really well because you really need to cast this character really very well because his entire purpose is to die with like a sort of elegant dignity.
Yeah.
He comes in and he's basically because their plan. Sorry to back up a little bit. The Babylon 5's plan is to have the Shadows and the Vorlons attack each other. So that they don't damage more colonies and that they win and we don't have the Earth doesn't have to or whatever. The Army of Light doesn't have to fight them. Mm-hmm. Erickson comes on and says the Shadows are attacking more colonies. And here's a visual that I pulled, and it looks like a really bad Windows Media Player visualizer, but like bad in like a scary way. And he describes that the Shadows are using these nukes, which have a name that I can't remember. It's like Planet Crackers or something like that.
Well, the Vorlons have their beam, their planet killer beam. That like blasts shit up, and then the Shadows have something that like
the Death Cloud. That's what it is.
Yeah. That casts this like big Jupiter storm cloud.
It's like a nano chip storm that like nukes things and digs holes into things. And he's describing it, and I like that. Him describing these nukes and how they're going to rip apart planets is scarier than like they don't have to show us bad CG of nukes.
Yeah,
it's just being like, yeah, the planet will be wiped out before people realize it. Like that's scary.
Yeah.
That's successfully very scary.
Yeah.
Sheridan is kind of rattled, obviously, and he says, like, let's get all the non-line worlds together, and we're all going to attack Coriana 6, and it's time to end the Shadow War. There's no more planning. We're just going in there now.
Because they know that the Vorlons are going to that world, Coriana 6, which has some Shadow stuff stored on it, and also has 6 billion inhabitants.
Right.
And they know the Vorlons are on their way to destroy that planet.
And his plan is to make sure that both factions are there and stay there. He has Erickson and his White Star send a fake message out to Babylon 5 and not encrypt it with the intention that the Shadows will intercept it and go, oh shit, we need to go to Coriana 6 and we need to get there. We need to stay there as well and attack whoever's there. So the idea is like they will keep both factions, the Shadows and the Vorlons there. They'll blow each other up. It'll be great. The problem is that Erickson is like, all right, cool, we'll fight, we'll do our best. And then Sheridan's like, doesn't matter if you do your best or not. You're going to be one ship against two godly factions. Like, hey, are you married? That's the good moment. That's the line.
Oh, man.
And so he's like, hey, Erickson, like, thank you for doing this plan. Are you married? And Erickson's like, no. He's like, okay, good.
Yeah, Sheridan says there's that at least. And everyone else is like, fuck, bro. Like,
dude. And again, shout outs to Bryan Cranston just being like, yeah, we did sign up for this. We knew this was going to happen. Me and all of the Minbari on this ship, like, planned. We like signed up for the Army of Light knowing that, like, we're probably going to have to sacrifice ourselves. I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
And he's still a person. Like, they give you just enough personality out of Erickson that you still feel really sad that this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then the wild thing about when Sheridan later is listening is he's not listening to a live transmission. We come back to Sheridan after this has all happened.
Yeah, and he's listening to the tape of the message they sent.
of them being like, all right, we're doing good. Oh no. And they're all dead. And it's actually very sad.
Yeah.
And then he kind of realizes, talking to, I think, Delenn, he's like, yeah, no, none of us are guaranteed to survive. Like, we can win and still die. A lot of this, if you'll allow me to galaxy brain it for a bit.
Yeah, sure.
Feels like JMS and company realizing the fragility of middle age, of like late middle age.
Okay.
And being like, I could just wake up tomorrow dead. I could like change the world and make something beautiful and then die myself and no one would remember me. You know?
Yeah.
Because so much of this war plot is like, I'm going to put my whole heart and soul into this and then I might just lose.
Right.
And then that's further solidified by the last scene where Sheridan finishes his final personal log ever and talks about his first day on Babylon 5 and how somebody left a copy of Ulysses by Tennyson on his desk.
Mm-hmm.
And he reads the end of Ulysses, which is a good poem.
That's what the poem's called? Ulysses?
Ulysses, yeah. Ulysses by Alfred Lord Tennyson. It's beautiful. I mean, it's kind of easy to just be like, it's the poem about like how we're all good, we're all heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mind if I read this last little chunk
Yeah,
here?
read it.
It's a very long poem. So the end of it is basically, though much is taken, much abides, and though we are not now that strength which in old days moved earth and heaven, that which we are, one equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. It's very easy to read that as like not like a rah-rah war thing, but just like this is what we do, is we persist.
Yeah.
And I like that a lot. I think having the captain like read poetry on their log is like a little easy, but it works for me here.
Yeah, I agree. It works better than in what's that movie? That
Independence Day?
No, that wasn't. The movie that wasn't as good as we thought it could be, where it's like space, and it's what's his face?
What?
It's Inception guy, and he made a space movie.
Oh, Interstellar.
Interstellar. Yeah, it's not as bad as an Interstellar, where it's like, do not go gentle into that good night. And they just keep doing that over and over again, and it sucks.
It's like, I read it to my daughter. It's an important poem to me. Like, shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it mostly works. This is the thing with Babylon 5 is you kind of have to like be okay with cliches being done well. Like acknowledging like, yeah, this is a cliche, but it's handled well here, I promise you.
Right.
But do be aware that it's happening.
Yeah.
That's basically what I got for this first episode. Meaty discussion, only going to be made meatier by the second one.
Yeah, Lorien's in the second one, right?
Yes, the Lorien stuff is all in the second one.
Great, so we'll talk about that soon. The one stray thing, I think I texted this to you, but it's very hard for me now to take people saying in Valen's name seriously. Like Bryan Cranston he has this whole dignified thing where he's like, okay, so we're gonna go die, so we should probably get ready. I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna crack. Like, I understand my mission. I'm doing it. And it's noble and it's cool and it's really sad. And you're like, war is fucked up. And being a general is fucked up because you have to tell people to do this a lot. And then at the end, he's like, in Valen's name. And Delenn kind of has this face of like, ooh, yeah, right. Valen.
In Jeff's name.
Yeah, in the name of my friend Jeff from work.
It's never not going to be funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love in Valen's name now. The recontextualization of this like normal thing we probably heard 100 times in the show before we knew what it meant.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, one of the emails we got as I transitioned into our email segment was
Let's do it.
Some Babylon 5 memes from our buddy Ryan from the Spit and Polish podcast.
Lovely.
It being like one of the memes was like a galaxy brain about how what is it called? The different ways that people interpret that whole situation. Let me just find the meme. How about that? I'll just find the meme. It's in here somewhere. I hid it so that I wouldn't look at it while we were talking. I found it. Small brain. Sinclair talks like a Minbari. Bigger brain. The current Minbari society is modeled off of Valen. Larger brain. The Minbari talk like Valen. slightly larger brain. Sinclair is Valen. And Galaxy Brain, the Minbari talk like Sinclair. He's just right there. They all just model themselves after this dude. It's great.
Yeah.
John, we have 3 emails this week. Can I read the first one?
Please do.
And you can read the Dan mail, and then we can
Yeah.
take it to the close. Ryan, again, from the Spit and Polish podcast. You know what, Spit and Polish? I keep hearing about your show. Can you tell me what your show's about, please?
Hello, listening people. This is Ryan Swinsky from the Spit and Polish Presents podcast. On our podcast, we talk about movies. We have our weekly show, Unappreciated Masterpieces. Have you been looking at a movie and thought to yourself, why hasn't anyone podcasted about this? Why is there no audio commentary track about this movie that asks the questions that I've been asking? Well, guess what? We have that show. That is Unappreciated Masterpieces. And we have our monthly show, The Mystery Box. On The Mystery Box, we gather around together, open up a box that's full of films that have been found secondhand, and we try and break down what the heck we just watched. So, if you're looking for a new film podcast to add to your many, many, many podcasts that you're listening to, why don't you give us a shot? You can find us under all the podcast platforming sites and social medias under Spit and Polish Presents. Remember, until next time, listening people, give whatever podcast you're listening to, a rating and review. It's a nice thing to do for them.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate that. Ryan goes on to say, in regards to some of the stuff you're up to, it's interesting that in the first season, when Jakar is getting tortured with pain givers, he refuses to scream because of his pride. The first season also has that great moment in which the Vorlons come in a destroy Deathwalker and tell the younger races that they're not ready for immortality, which plays nicely into the controlling nature of the Vorlons. Yeah, so we're getting a lot of stuff that has been brought up in season 1 and seemed kind of vague then, including Jakar's torture stuff. And then he has a question for us. He says, say you're the best actors in the universe. If you could play a character big or small in Babylon 5, which one would it be? I would probably play Neroon because he's such a Shakespearean type.
That's a good one.
This is easy for you, Magellan, right?
Yeah, Emperor Cartagia, for sure.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. I mean, that or Jakar. But just because Chatzylon does such a great job with Jakar that he, makes it look like you could do it when...
Right, it looks doable.
You cannot. You cannot match that performance. But Cartagia feels like a role that, I could stretch and years and years and maybe a decade of acting experience, and I could probably do it.
You get yourself there, yeah. I would like to do a version of Franklin. Just the sad doctor who has to and the scene where he's talking to himself. I'd love to do that and play both sides of that. Yeah. I think there's a lot of untapped pathos with Franklin's character that would just be fun to kind of dig into and be that character. That's cool. Magellan, what's our next email?
Our next email comes from our buddy Dan. It's the Dan mail.
Dan mail.
And these are Dan's thoughts on the summoning and falling towards apotheosis. And the email starts as all emails should. By Dan saying, I agree with Magellan.
Boo.
And then actually there's no more email. It's really just kind of a blank check from Dan. So thank you so much.
This sucks.
He goes on to say, the Sheridan Garibaldi stuff just does not feel good in these episodes. I get that it's not supposed to feel good, but that doesn't make me appreciate it anymore. It just seems like there's a bit too much going on there. Sheridan is back from the dead and is distant and has been walking around like he owns the place, whereas Garibaldi's paranoid and xenophobic and all around being weird about things. I don't like the ambiguity here. Have they both really changed in some fundamental way, or are they appropriately reacting to what's going on around them? For all we know, Sheridan could just be Lorien's sock puppet, and Garibaldi could be somebody's plaything. Or are they both just having an interesting day? I'm just not a fan of it. I guess we'll get more. I need some more Garibaldi, right?
I need to know where that's going.
He hasn't really mattered to either of these plots, and that's fine. I don't think that he could have done much. His main contribution in the first episode was just to talk at the table.
Yeah.
It's kind of okay. But I'm very curious to just see what's up with that guy. By the time that Cartagia is talking about turning Centauri Prime into a funeral pyre, I think that he's less of a proper character and more about being Londo's funhouse mirror reflection. Cartagia is great, but I think it's mostly in the sense of how he plays off of Londo and how Londo reacts to it, to this warped vision of the path he was walking. I think that his "I'm going to let this planet burn" scene was less about Cartagia's craziness, though he is quite crazy, and was more about that moment afterward when Londo has to lean on a pillar to stay on his feet.
Oh,
yeah.
Good.
And that's echoed, right, where Cartagia's like, you're my guy. You're going to be the high priest. All of your skills have... Like, what Londo is best at, and what he's realizing he's best at, is he's best at ingratiating himself with someone who is purely mad. He, like, understands how Cartagia thinks in a way that I think disturbs him.
Exactly. That's the fucked up thing about their relationship, is that he manipulates it brilliantly.
Yeah.
Or he plays it, I mean.
Looking at the viewing order of your future episodes, it's about what I would have expected. One thing that I've never been a fan of with all of these chronological viewing lists is the idea of getting down to the final episode, then setting it aside to watch a couple of movies. As much of a stickler as I usually am, I'm not a big fan of keeping things purely chronological here. In this case, I'm a bigger fan of staying thematically pure in that moment. The show is ramping up to an end, and it very much feels like it. It feels very unnatural to me to break that stride by plopping in two movies there that have absolutely nothing to do with the episodes leading up to them, or that one episode that's waiting there after them. They're this large, nonsensical aside that feels completely out of place, even though they technically fit time-wise. They're the classic anime filler arc. Personally, I'd suggest finishing out the last episode, then watching those movies. It's not like you'll lose sense of when they happen in the timeline any more than if you were to watch them where they're listed. As it is, there are other chronological impurities on that list anyhow, so that's my 2 cents on the viewing order. And that's from Dan. Yeah, we'll take that into consideration, right?
Yeah, definitely. Especially the, like, maybe just do the last episode, but couple comments on that. One, I love finishing shows.
Mm-hmm.
I love finishing shows, but this is one of those shows where, like, I kind of want to savor the last possible episode.
Yeah, I don't want to end on the bullshit, right?
Right. That's the other thing, is we are generally, or I consider myself firmly in the release order over chronological order for things, because, like, this came out in a certain order and people understood it in that order. Mm-hmm. People figured it out and understood how the things work. Like, technically,
well, is our watch order in release order though?
I don't know if the movies are.
Yeah.
But, like, technically, if we were doing perfect chronological order, we would have started with In the Beginning, which would have been terrible.
Right.
So that, and it's that, and also, like, we're breaking it up because, like you said, if we were to just do, like, the whole show and then all the movies, we would never finish any of the movies. We'd just be like, all right, well, I don't care anymore because the show is done. It's like doing all the side quests in the video game before you finish it, because once you finish it, why would you ever want to go back and do things?
But there is validity to what Dan's saying of, like, the show is building you up to a finale, and then you just kind of, like, pop that, the tension of that, and then save the finale. That also feels weird, right?
Bust the nut at the end, yeah.
Yeah, you bust. What?
Sorry. Well, especially with season 4, like, it's just gone so fast that I'm like, I could use a break.
Yeah.
Like, I'm excited for Third Space in 2 weeks, because I'm like, yeah, let me just, like, get a fun, like, space adventure for a little while before we dig into more stuff. But we'll definitely keep that with the season 5s. I think we're definitely going to do season 4 episode 8, then Third Space, then the rest of season 4. But then after that, like, with the season 5 movies, we'll play around, because I know some people, like, hate the Rangers movie, and it might break pacing up for that. But
which one's the Rangers movie? Oh, the Legend of the
Legend of the Rangers. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll see how that ends up going.
And then we have to figure out if we're going to watch
Crusade
or not.
Can we? Yeah, I think I've asked this before. Should we watch Crusade? Is there meat in there for us to talk about?
Yeah, let us know if you've seen it. My inclination is, like, why not? But
you're right. It's not that long. It would only be a couple weeks.
It'd just take us like two months probably to do it all.
Exactly. But these are good comments, so thank you to Dan. Our final email. Yeah, our final email this week comes from Patrick of the Brothers at Infinite War. He simply says, "Don't you guys think it's weird when Centauri?"
Wait, what? Crisis on Infinite Brothers. That's what it is. There we
Oh.
go. It took me a second to pull that title, but I got it.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, go ahead.
He says, "Don't you guys think it's weird when Centauri men give hugs, like when Londo and Veer hug?"
Yeah. They really didn't know how to do that, huh?
Nope.
All the back pats and stuff.
How do we poke each other? They're just mashing their junk against one another, and he's like, there's not anything wrong with that." And then the email just ends. Yeah, because don't they have like weird penises and weird hair?
With the penises, they have a bunch of tentacles in their pants, right? Isn't that the penises, or are they on their chest, or where are those?
Someone please explain Centauri anatomy to us. Just because I know like there was the episode with the poker where like Lanier and Londo were like playing poker, and then there was like a
Londo,
penis.
Like, uses his dick to.
But
cheat.
It wasn't Londo's dick; it was an alien. I thought.
No, it was Londo's penis.
No.
Yes, he was using his penis to give himself more cards or something.
Great show. Great.
Yeah, great show.
As we've said before, that's the same Londo.
Yeah, like that's the guy that also is like Mr. Morden.
Oh God, let's get there.
Yeah, I'm ready to do it.
We'll be right back after this brief musical break to discuss Into the Fire.
Welcome back to Chatzylon 5. The second episode we watched this week was Season 4, Episode 6, Into the Fire. It was written by Jan Straczynski.
Jan Straczynski.
Let me do that again. It was written by GMS. Directed by Kevin James. Kevin James.
Kevin James is directing this one.
Kevin James Dobson. Kevin James. It was directed by Kevin James Dobson. Aired February 3rd, 1997. And it takes place from January 23rd to January 30th of 2261. Alan?
Yes?
What happened in Into the Fire, taking it higher and higher. Ooh.
People should watch Wet Hot American Summer and all of its associated.
Do it. Watch the sequel, the prequel.
All of it. It's all good. The movie is worth it alone, but then the rest of it's all fun. Into the Fire. Oh, Kevin James Dobson also, the only other thing he directed was What the Hell Happened to Mr. Harry Baldwin.
Here Comes the Boom. Yeah.
Yeah. Blink 182. Here I am. I
miss you, and I'm so sorry.
I cannot
sleep tonight.
I love you forever and always. God, we are just trashy. In this episode, at the height of the Shadow War, Sheridan stages a final showdown between the Vorlons and the Shadows at Coriana 6.
Ooh.
You thought that the Long Night was going to be the busy episode, but you were stupid. Why'd you think that?
Why'd you idiot?
This episode is even bigger. We talk about this feeling like a finale, and really, especially the Babylon 5 plot is just like ending like it's gonna close out on some credits, and then we're gonna get like a Animal House epilogue of like Sheridan went on to die.
Delenn went on to have a bigger wig.
Yeah, exactly. Garibaldi also went on to have a bigger wig. Yeah, Into the Fire is huge. There's some big I love this like technically small scale Londo Veer Centauri Prime plot, and then the like exponentially larger scale but still equally personal Babylon 5 Shadow War plot. They're all it's all good right now.
Here's my thing with this, man.
Is
Babylon 5 built this whole cosmology that is like the Vorlons and the Shadows have been locked in this millennia-long war between order and chaos.
Yep.
And here's the dude who was like the first dude ever And then by the end of the episode, they're all like, okay, we're leaving forever.
Yeah, bye. Sorry.
There's no more big cosmic sci-fi plot. And
Isn't that cool?
It is cool because it runs counter to my expectations of how sci-fi shows build season to season.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and sometimes I get kind of like, annoyed's not the right word, but it feels predictable when the way that sci-fi shows scale is they're like, okay, and now you meet the gods, and now you know how it all started. And Babylon 5 is like, yeah, okay, you know that. Now that it doesn't matter anymore. And we're going to keep doing show for like a while.
It's definitely intentional. I mean, we like goof that this feels so final, but imagining a world of Babylon 5 post Shadows and Vorlons, post this idea that where all of our fate is dictated by these other races, and it's like, okay, now they're done. What does life look like when we dictate our own fate and when we make our own decisions? What does that resemble? And this is like the episode where Lorien and the Shadows and the Vorlons are all basically handing off the torch and saying, all right, guys, it's your turn to figure it out.
And it really, it's cool how it redefines your understanding of what winning the Shadow War means. Because it's kind of cheesy, the moment where, it's super cheesy actually, the moment where Sheridan says, Shadows, Vorlons, maybe the real way to win was not to fight at all. It's like, okay. But that does it feels so much more fulfilling when the way to win is to say, leave. Like, we don't want to fight this war. As opposed to, we did it. We blew up Zahadum. We won.
Right. The only nuking that happens this episode is on a fuck off island in the middle of nowhere.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's cool. I wonder what the rest of the show is going to feel like, because it sort of feels, my gut is like, you can't get bigger than what we did. We met the first dude. We sent all the gods away. So there's no, like, even older than the gods being.
I hope not.
I don't think. I think that would suck.
Yeah.
But then it feels like the rest of the show is going to feel like the comic books that were published by Dark Horse. That the creator, like, outlined for somebody to write, you know? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's like what the show would have been if it kept going, except it's still the show.
And it's the same actors and same stuff, right?
Yeah.
What I think it also made me realize is there's just so many plots in the show. Like, it's always felt like every season we see a major thing and go, this is the plot of the season. Mm-hmm. You know, this is the telepath season. This is the Minbari Civil War season. This is the Shadow season. And the show is like, no, like, everything is always happening. We have things on the back of our burner that are there intentionally. We're not just focusing on this thing for the whole season, and all that stuff is still relevant. Like, we're going to wake up tomorrow, and like Garibaldi and Ivana were talking about last week, like, we still have Earth to deal with. We still have Clark. We still have Psycor. We don't know what's going on with some of the characters on the ship. Like,
we don't know what's going to happen to Narn. We don't know Centauri intrigue, what's happening there.
Yeah. What does a Centauri Prime under the rule of Londo even look like right now? Mm-hmm. So we have a lot to go. I do actually want to start with the Centauri Prime stuff because it's kind of like, it feels a little bit more intimate, I think, than this global, like, Century War.
Let's do it.
Morden tells Minister Verini to gather the council, or Londo rather tells Minister Verini to gather the council. And we sort of immediately get this suggestion that he's taking things back because one of the council members talks to Londo and asks him about Lady Adira, and it's like, oh, like, what's with that lady? And he's like, yeah, it's such a shame that, what was even the guy's name? What was the other Centauri's name?
Lord
Rifa. He's like, yeah, really so frustrating that Rifa killed her. And he's like, yeah, I mean, he didn't. He's like, what? He's like, no, I don't know if anyone told you this, but, like, Morden is the one who had Lady Adira killed. And before he says that, Londo is like, "Can you please say what you mean?" The guy's like, "I don't know if I can." He goes, in my experience, if you cannot say what you mean, you never mean what you say." Or I think the other guy says that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can never mean what you say.
To Londo.
Which is a good line.
Well, the reason is because Londo calls Adira Lady Adira, and the dude's like, no, she was not a lady.
She was never a lady.
And Londo's like, "You're a dick." And he's like, "No, I just am saying what's true."
Yeah, words have
meaning. That's my
meaning.
job. I am the minister of information.
Yeah. There's this is so stupid. I found this like on the Lurker's Guide. It was like, in this episode, Londo truly does have his wits about him. His Minister of W, his Minister of I for information, his Minister of T for something else.
Shut up.
I'm not even going to find it, but I saw that somewhere and I got really angry.
It's absurd.
Hold on, Control F, wits. Let's see if I can find this. Yep. War, information, transportation, and security. Gavin's wits.
I hope that wasn't intentional.
Yeah, me neither. Same. So he's pissed. This is a great moment too, where Londo's like, "What is the line? He got me again.
He played me.
He played
me like a puppet."
And he just starts. This is a great like lashing out moment.
Yeah.
This is a better. Remember when Garibaldi did this in front of all the
really
cops?
Bad, yeah.
And now Londo's like, "No, I throw tables like a pro, and I know how to knock stuff off of things. This is great."
Well, and it all comes down to direction, right? Because what was weird about Garibaldi's is it was a single wide static shot.
Yep.
Of him being like, "I'm mad," and it looks stupid in this big room where everyone's looking at him.
Yeah.
But here, we got some shaky cam. We're kind of trying to follow Londo around, but he's moving too fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's way better.
It's just, and it's really personal too. Like, it doesn't just feel like he's lashing out to make a point. It's like
because he's alone.
He's lashing out because he's desperate and sad and alone, right? And him being alone is such an important factor in this scene working too.
Yeah. So this goes back to when that first happened. We kind of had a question about why was Londo working with Morden right away.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, was it one of our listeners who was like, maybe it's a keep your enemies close kind of thing, and he knew what was going on?
Yes, I believe that was a listener email.
They misled us. They played us like a puppet. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this scene is so good because you kind of know at this point that like Morden has to be taking care of this episode. Now that there's no more, like the shadow threat is being kind of like shifted away from Centauri Prime.
Done. It's over for Morden.
It's a wash for Morden. Londo's throwing tables. He confronts Morden in the throne room, and furthering with the thing you were saying earlier, where it's like the shadows and the Vorlons are now just like people. He just is like, "Hey, soldiers, go, just shoot them. Just kill the shadows that are standing next to Morden. We don't need to keep them around." Morden immediately drops his like confident air. Also, Morden in this episode has like Centauri hair, kind of.
Yeah, a little bit.
Which is so weird.
Yeah, he's copying the culture.
Also, he got all of his hair, his skin back.
Yeah, I think because they were gonna light him in full light, so they were like, "This isn't gonna work. We can't keep doing this Doctor Doom shit."
It doesn't work. We're gonna either have to
make him look like a dude again.
If we're gonna see his eyes as he like realizes that he's completely owned right now, then we need to like uncover him. Yeah. Londo has them shoot the shadows. He's like, "Morden, take your shadows off of this. Take them off of a nearby planet." And he's like, "Londo, my associates do not follow your orders. Fuck, eat my ass, Londo. Eat my ass, Londo." And Londo's like, "Okay." And he just has a fucking remote control button, and it turns into
Morden's like, "What are you gonna do? Blow up the island?" and
good idea.
I'm sitting there like, "Yeah, that's crazy." And Londo says, "Now that you mention it, I am fully a Bond villain." All of a sudden. Like, that's who I have become.
If you go back and watch that scene, he actually does a little bit of a smirk when Morden says that, because he's like, huh. Oh, what's this switch I have here? Click. And then you just see 3 nukes go off on the island and it's gone. This is so cartoonish and so satisfying.
Yeah, I'm into it.
And he's not even done. Londo just killed millions of people, FYI.
No.
There's no, okay, no, because he said I evacuated everybody off the island. No, you're right.
They only left just enough people to make it look like they were still there.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And those people knew what they were signing on for. They're sort of the Bryan Cranstons of the
Ericksons.
Yeah, the Ericksons of the Centauri.
And he's not even done with Morden yet. He's not even like, all right, we're all done. And here's the best part. We don't see Morden get killed. What we get is after some other stuff in the other plot line, we come back to Londo being like, Vir, I have a present for you.
Yeah.
And I'm curious how you felt about this scene because Vir, he says, go outside on the courtyard. I have a present out there for you.
Yeah.
And we get the flashback in case because since it's been like 2 years since this part in season 2, where Morden asks Vir what he wants, and he says, I want more than anything else to see your head on a pike so I can wave at it like this. And that's exactly what he sees, is Morden's head on a pike. And that's exactly what he does, is he does kind of like smile at it and wave at it.
Right.
Do you read this as like actually satisfying for Vir, or is this also like a tragic like shit?
Really tough to read, I think, for me, because so much of his arc and conflict in the last episode was about how wrong it felt to kill the Emperor and how wrong it felt to sort of take satisfaction out of him being dead.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has to stay a core conflict of Vir's. Right. Is like he wants to do the right thing and he doesn't want blood to be a part of doing the right thing. So for him to look at Morden and give like this weird, almost vaudevillian grin and wave, feels totally off from where he was in the last episode.
There's a lot of good facial acting happening there because he spends several seconds just kind of staring at it, and I think that is where it's like the scene from The Simpsons where Milhouse gives the choose you card to Lisa, and then they watch back the part where she rejects him, and they're like, this is the part where you can see his heartbreak, and they like play it frame by frame. So you can see Vir looking at Morden's head being like, uh-oh, oh no, uh-oh. And then you have the moment where he's like, you know what? In the short term, I'm okay with this. Like, I think the wave is still him being nervous, but being like, I'm still going to take satisfaction in this.
I don't know. There was something off. I think maybe there's like a jump cut in there too or something.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It's a little weird.
It just didn't feel that great. What it felt like, especially with the flashback, seeing the full scene where he says that to Morden, it felt like JMS being like, huh? I told you. And
it's because it's not like the way I would have done this scene is for it to be some like corrupted version of what we thought it would be.
Yeah.
Where he's like, I can't wait to see your head on a pike. And then he like sees it, but it like looks disgusting. And there's like people crying over it or something. And it's like, no, it's literally his head is on a pike. He was killed by Londo. He's dead. Vir waves at him. Exactly like he said. Nothing is different. But again, I do think that's intentional. I think that either it's supposed to make us think, uh-oh, is Vir okay with this? Is he still having doubts? Like, where's his head at now that he got the thing he wanted so badly?
I just don't think that was communicated very well in the way that it was shot and performed.
It's a really quick scene, too.
Yeah, because it just comes across... Because he has such... In the flashback, he speaks with such certainty about it that it just feels like that is what it is. And there's not really nuance in the way that this moment is presented to us.
Right, and it's funny to compare it to like the scene towards the end, because we jump ahead now. We don't get Londo and Vir for a while. We get a bunch of shadow stuff. And then at the end, we get Londo and Vir in like a dark room talking about all this stuff. And Londo has that amazing Londo line about how every time he's been happy, the universe conspired to do something nasty to him.
Mm-hmm.
And Vir is like, I think you're allowed to be happy this time.
Yeah, that's at the very end of the episode.
Yeah, I don't think any one of our gods would object Londo Mollari having one single night of happiness. And it's like, I can only read that as dreaded foreshadowing.
Yeah,
I can only read
like
it like
Londo
that.
is doomed.
You're
100%.
confirming it. Being like, Londo, it's fine. Like, you won, right? Like, you won. Especially because Vir says, I suppose, at the end. It's just like, you're solidifying it.
Yeah, like, we're fucked.
Yeah, Londo sends Vir back to Babylon 5 as the ambassador. It's gonna be a good time for Veer to be back. Be like, now that all of the other plots are done, he can just be an
Mm-hmm.
ambassador for a minute.
Yeah.
Remember that part in like season 1, episode 2, when he was like, Veer, be the ambassador for 5 minutes. I'll be right back. Don't sell the country. It's happening.
Yeah. I don't fully get what Morden got out of Londo killing Rifa. I guess it just Morden distracted Londo from going after Morden. Is that it?
What? I think,
Like,
yeah. Well,
Londo's
yeah,
like,
what was
he played me. But like, what did he play you to do? Because getting rid of Rifa was also vital to saving Centauri Prime.
Sure, but when he got rid of Rifa, Londo turned to Morden and said, I'll work with you one more time.
To do what? To get rid of Rifa, right?
To get rid of Rifa, I guess, yeah. But he didn't use Rifa to do that? Or he didn't use Morden to do that?
Right. That's where I'm confused.
That is a little strange.
I guess it just Morden like distracted Londo from keeping the
Not
shadows
realizing
off
what's
of-
happening, which is that they're
Yeah.
letting Cartagia take the throne.
Yeah, I guess.
Like, by
Anyway.
distracting them with this Rifa plotline, he's like, actually, now I can just put Cartagia right there, and now I have a puppet on the throne.
Yeah. I guess that's what it is. But I think the other really powerful scene from the Londo plot that we sort of alluded to when we were talking about last episode was that the Vorlons are coming to Centauri Prime. We have this interesting exchange between Lita and Marcus, where Lita's like, dude, there are like a ton of people on Centauri Prime, and the Vorlons are about to blow them up. And Marcus is like, yeah, but we can only save one planet, and they have fewer people, so they're going to blow up. Unless they can, like, figure their shit out. Londo thinks that he's gotten rid of all the shadow influence, and he gives the Vorlons a call. He's like, hey, guys, we're good. Like, I blew them up. You're great. And bye. And then Veer says, well, you haven't gotten rid of all of the shadow influence.
Oh, yeah.
Looks at Londo, points at Londo. And
You.
Londo has this panic moment of like, not for me. They wouldn't blow up the whole planet just to kill me. That was like, fuck, man.
It was that, and it was just how quickly and comfortably Londo was being like, Veer, just kill me. Kill me now before they can.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, he just won, and he's already like, all right, end it. Take me out. Like, he knows that his life isn't worth anything if it's not gonna go the way he expected it to. He's not letting himself be tricked another time. He's like, just I'm ready to do it right this second.
Yeah. That's
And
a
then
really redeeming moment for Londo.
It is. He's finally doing some sort of self-sacrifice and letting himself and putting himself on the back burner while history happens. Fortunately, the Vorlons peace out immediately because of what's going on Babylon 5.
Yeah.
So this is a nice little
Or what's going on with Babylon 5 people.
Yes, with the people in Babylon 5. This is a really good handoff of an A and B plot, just as like a storytelling method, I think, because you're watching these in the show, obviously back and forth happening, but then after this scene, it's like, all right, now there's no more Londo Veer stuff until they hug it out at the end, which is a good, cute moment. But
yeah,
do you want to get into this big heavy stuff?
Let's see what we can make of it.
So I think best effort is to just kind of go semi-linearly.
Okay.
John's telling Delenn to tell Ivanova to quote haul ass, because we still get humor in this show, and Delenn's like, haul ass, and that sounds painful, like butts.
You going to drive with your butt?
I do like this stuff, and I do like that the show remembers that it can be a little bit funny every once in a while still. We get lots of Lita being sad about shadows approaching, and she tries to communicate with the Vorlons, and like kind of tell them to stop, because they're like, you're the only human who's ever like spoken to them and been a vessel of them. Why don't you try to talk to them? And she does, and then they possess her. She throws John and Delenn into stasis fields, and it appears Lorien knows what's going on and tells Linear, back off, this has to happen. And then the episode gets weird.
And the thing that I was kind of, I don't know, like, it's whatever. But ever since John came back from being dead, his plans have been kind of invisible to the audience.
Right.
In a way that I don't know. I feel conflicted about that because it's turned him into this sort of all-knowing guy. Because Lorian's like, don't worry, he knew that this was going to happen. This thing where they both the Vorlons and the Shadows agreed to take Lita over at the same time, and then talked to separately John and Delenn. And now Lorien is broadcasting the whole interaction to everybody with his powers. It's like, how did we know that
How do we know this was all going to work flawlessly? Yeah.
Yeah, how do we know that was going to be the chain of events?
It's like some Vorlon great chain of command or like great fate sort of thing. Like this was all intended. Right. My problem with this whole scene is like it's good, but it's so... I don't want to say it's so video gamey because video games went on to do this after this show mostly.
Sure.
But it's very like BioWare moral choicey, especially once it's just a literal Vorlon and Shadow in front of Sheridan afterwards. But for now, John is talking to a veiled bride inside of a cocoon, and that's supposed to be the Vorlons.
I think that's a really cool
representation. It's a gorgeous image.
Vorlons,
yeah. And Delenn's version of the Shadows is her friends. It's Franklin, it's Sheridan, it's Lanier, it's Marcus. It's everybody talking to her as her friends. The Vorlons tell Sheridan that, like, we had plans for you. Why, when you guys don't follow our plans, things tend to go bad for you. Don't you know that? He's like, that's not fair that you guys don't get to decide who makes you the decision makers. The Shadows are telling Delenn that, like, even the Minbari, for example, got better when we put them through a lot of war and rigor. Like, aren't you guys doing great? And she's like, no, we're not. Like, we can figure this out on our own. Basically, both of them are kind of rooting for independence and self-sufficiency. Instead of this predestination or like forced failure, you know?
Right.
After they get out of the sort of like invisible fields or whatever.
Yeah. And just the thing, I think that's the point of them interacting with the Vorlons and the Shadows is to reveal, like, because John asked the Vorlons directly, hey, so you've had like a planet destroying cannon this whole time.
Yeah.
Why did you not blow up Zahadum? Why have you not already done this? If you really wanted to destroy the Shadows, you would have done that. But you don't. What you want is for us to destroy the Shadows and to like choose to follow you and tell you that you're right. And what the Shadows want is for us to choose to follow them and tell them that they're right.
Both of you want us to choose, but you're forcing us to get there. Doesn't that seem kind of counterintuitive?
Yeah. And like your war is not like they weren't attacking each other directly because they don't want to fight each other.
Yeah.
Through war. They want the younger races to like follow them and fight for them. And that's,
I think this is
fucked up. Weird
It's
thing.
brilliant too because Sheridan says what the truth of what this is. He's like, it's just like your two parents who instead of arguing with each other are just having their kids be their sort of puppets to fight the other parent.
Yeah.
Like, what, you guys don't want to talk it out? You never figured out what your own ideology is? And then when they come out and they're on the White Star again, we see, like I said, a literal, like a Vorlon and a Shadow in front of them.
Yeah, which is kind of dumb looking, but
this is super like BioWare. You like pick the blue or red option.
Yeah.
And they're like, it is now your time to choose. And Lorian's like, Sheridan, like, you're about to define history. Choose correctly. Be careful.
I can't help you.
I'm not allowed to help. I can tell you the answer.
I'm gonna walk away now. Bye.
So speaking of parentalist, yeah. Sheridan has a really smart moment where he's like, all right, you guys ask me who are you and what do you want? And you guys ask me what, like, your questions. What are your answers to your own questions? Do you guys know who you are? Do you guys know what you want?
Yeah.
And they have no answer for him. And so what they realize is, like, the Shadows and the Vorlons have been fighting for so long that they don't know why they're fighting anymore.
Yeah.
They kind of are just going through the motions. He's like, this is just going to happen again. You're never going to solve it because you've never stopped to think about why you're fighting. You're just fighting because you've always been doing this.
Yeah.
Doesn't this seem worthless, you guys? I reject both of your ideologies. And then Lorian's like, nice, dude.
Now I can
nice.
help. Now I can help you. All right, let's go, guys.
He's the parent to the parents, being like, all right, kids, pack it up, get the war out of here.
Yeah.
The humans figured it out. Basically, they got the correct answer on the test. They always pick C. They got it. Here's the keys to my SUV. Basically, he's like, now your race gets to do what we did. And he talks earlier, actually, there's like a little first one lore about how the first ones, he's telling Ivanova how the reason they lived so long was not because of any magic, but just because they had a really, really low birth rate. So the people who did survive lived extremely long lives, and they lived long enough to nurture the Shadows and the Vorlons.
Yeah.
But as a result, living a long life means that you, like he says about the Shadows and the Vorlons, detach yourself from emotions and feelings.
Yeah.
And so he's like, the reason the younger races are great is because you guys can believe the myth that feelings and emotions are eternal.
Yeah.
Because your lives are too short to prove yourself wrong.
Right. He's like the thing, like lifespans got shorter because that's what makes the universe interesting, is when generations come of age and die and cycle out. And he says, the line specifically is, it takes, what does he say? I texted it to you.
You did.
Can you look? I don't have my phone.
The problem is that we text. Only those whose lives are brief can imagine that love is eternal.
Fuck me up. Lord.
So good.
Fuck me up.
You can't live long enough because then you'll realize that none of this matters. You'll just be like the first ones. You'll be like the Shadows and the Vorlons. You'll just be like, I guess we keep fighting.
Yeah.
But when you're short and you run hot in a way, like you just live with your whole heart, you can experience all those feelings and accept that they're real and not fall for the truth that it's all fleeting.
Right.
It's beautiful. It's just like a really nice conclusion to like all of these plots. It's like, yeah, there's a reason that we've had you guys fight, is because you need to figure this out on your own, and you did.
Yeah.
I think it's a little weird though that he's like, all right, now you guys are going to basically be the new first ones. And if you live long enough, you can now do this for other people, for other races, I mean. Which, like, we're not going to see that, obviously, but it's kind of fun to be like, oh, cool. Like, we get to be the gods to some other sci-fi show now.
I mean, don't say that we're not going to see it. You never know, right?
That's true. We could get, like, a jump into, like, 3361 or something.
Yeah, I think that's cool. That it's like, hey, this is just how the world is going to work, that a species comes of age and nurtures the next thing, and then they do that, and then they leave. I think that's like a great cosmology or fiction that I haven't really seen other sci-fi entities do. So I'm a fan of it. And I thought, I don't know how to feel about this. I found it endearing, I guess. The moment where Lorian was like, okay, all right, Vorlons and Shadows, you ready to go, you guys? We're going to go meet all our old friends. And they're like, we're not going to be alone? And he's like, no, we're all going to hang out in heaven forever.
In eternity space.
Yeah, and they're like, yay.
Yay. They got snacks?
Yeah, of course, all the snacks you could want.
They got the Oreo Thins and the Oreos with peanut butter. It's fucking sick.
Yay, that's the basis of our ideological difference.
Wow.
Never mind the like mass genocides that they both carried out. Lorian's
it's a little clean.
Yeah, Lorian's like, all right, well, time to go, huh?
That was fun.
They're like, oh yeah, okay, Dad.
He says, all right, guys, you guys can now you'll nurture the other younger races. We will wait for you. And then he also turns into like a beam of light and then vanishes into the dark. Bye, Lorian. Nice to meet you. The cool part is that the younger races now have control of the universe. The less cool part is that all of that conflict is now just on their hands. Like, oh, shit. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of dead people and a lot of like residual conflict to deal with. But that's what being alive is for them.
Yeah.
There's conflict for them. They're not going to like fix conflict, you know?
Yeah.
Then Sheridan comments that it's time for the third age to begin, which answers a question that we had so long ago. We were like, what do they mean the third
age of mankind?
What does that mean? And he's like, yeah, so And Delenn is like, what does that mean? Why'd you say that? The first age was when we tried to figure shit out, but we didn't have any help when we were just like Neanderthals. The second age is the one we were just in, where other races tried to tell us how to figure things out. And the third age, like the first one, is us figuring things out on our own. But now we know that we can do it. He says, and this is the corniest ending line of any episode, maybe.
Yep.
Now we make our own magic. Now we create our own legends. Now we build the future. Now we stop being afraid of
Delenn
shadows.
says, well, but Delenn's like,
Or
now
no.
we stop. Well, how does that go? Because Delenn says some of that.
Yeah, I think she might say magic. Like they might go back and forth or something.
Yeah, they go back and forth.
I'll double check. But then it's, now we stop being afraid of shadows.
Because he
and it's
cuts her off to say the shadows thing.
Yeah. Yep.
I thought of this great, clever thing, Delenn. And she sort of laughs and goes, oh, Sheridan. You're so smart. You're so funny. I don't even know where we are right now. We're just sitting, like, maybe they're sitting at the front of the bridge and, like, everybody else is at the control panels. And they're, like, just kind of cuddling at the window. Lanier's like, all right, so you want me to drive? You want to go to Babylon 5 or what are we doing?
Yeah, she says the whole thing and then she says, now we stop. And then there's a long pause where we zoom into Babylon 5. And then he's like, being afraid of shadows. Corny. I like it though. Corny but good.
All right.
Yeah, this is
over.
just them in the back. This is them in the back seat of the White Star, and then they're like, "Oh, I guess we're going back to B5. Let's figure some stuff out there."
You could end the show here,
We
right?
could absolutely end the show here. Absolutely.
Like we could stop watching, and I don't think I would feel that bad.
I think part of the reason for that is we're used to show. I'm gonna sneeze.
Okay, sneeze.
The sneeze is gone.
Okay.
We're keeping that. We're used to shows that end prematurely, and so you could be like, "Oh, I guess they never did figure out the Garibaldi stuff. Oh well, the ending was good," and you just move on.
Yeah, that's just sort of something you accept in television, right?
Yeah, sometimes shows don't end perfectly, but this is a satisfying ending that you didn't have to follow up on actually.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you for doing it anyways, because I'm excited.
But the more you think about it, the more you're like, well, there are things that have been set up that haven't been explored. Like what's up with Garibaldi? What's going to happen to the Minbari? What's the whole Earth shit? All that stuff.
So we have more. We have somehow so much more show to watch. We have like a season, like I said, season 3/4 to go.
Oh yeah,
and a lot of movies. So, I mean, I figure Garibaldi stuff is next, and then probably Psycor stuff, and then they work with Psycor and they like beat Earth with Psycor. Maybe.
Really? No, or they beat. I feel like Psycor's the bad guys.
Do you think? Okay, but Bester was like, "We're cool, guys."
No, he's gonna be bad again. I would bet you money.
I believe it. I'm ready to believe it.
You want to know what we're watching next week?
I do. What are we watching next week?
Well, we're watching the next 2 episodes of Babylon 5, season 4.
Can I go into my headphones?
Did we get non-spoilery summaries this time or no?
We did. We have them for the rest of the season.
Oh, great. That's great. You read the non-spoilery ones, and then I'll read the spoilery ones, and then tell you to come back.
Okay. Wait, who goes first?
What?
Oh, you're gonna read yours to the listener, and then I'm gonna.
No, I think you read yours.
Okay.
And then I read mine.
Okay.
The Amazon.
So mine come from our buddy Danny, who sent us non-spoilery descriptions of the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Next week we're watching season 4, episode 7, Epiphanies. Bester arrives at Babylon 5 with information regarding Earth's escalating isolation of the station. Garibaldi delivers some surprising news to the command staff.
All right, so we're
pregnant.
Gonna see some Bester, huh?
He's pregnant. Season 4, episode 8, The Illusion of Truth. The command staff gets a surprise as ISN send a reporter to, quote, get their side of the story to the station. Yes, I love the fake news stuff. Not the fake news stuff, you know what I mean, the news report stuff.
Honestly, it's only the summary for episode 7 that's a spoiler, and it's not even actually a spoiler.
Okay.
These are fine.
Okay.
You'll be fine. So Amazon summaries for season 4, episode 7, Epiphanies. Earth prepares to shut down Babylon 5.
Oops. Hate to see it.
Kind of the same thing as what you read from Danny.
Yeah.
And then season 4, episode 8, The Illusion of Truth, a propagandist news reporter visits Babylon 5. So those are fine. There's some other ones that are pretty spoilery later in the season.
Well, I have the rest of season 4 here as well. So shout outs to Danny and shout outs to everybody for listening.
Yeah.
John, would you like us to take it to the plug zone?
Let's do it.
Fabulo. If you would like to email us questions, comments, concerns, or if you'd like to be on the podcast, please email us at chatzpod@gmail.com. That's chatzpod@gmail.com. You can also tweet at us at Chatspod on Twitter, where we receive comments and people follow us, and I post our Babylon 5 memes that people send us, and it's great. We learned that Sheridan really likes oranges.
Yep.
What the fuck?
We uncovered this weird set of memes all centered around that idea.
That Sheridan loves oranges, orange juice, and the whole. It's like a whole thing, you guys.
It's a good thing, yeah.
Like based on an episode we've already seen. It's not even like, oh, you guys haven't seen this yet. It's like, no, it just flew over our heads.
Yeah, we missed it.
Yeah, which is sometimes that happens. It do be like that. You ever think that I'm saying the word doobie when I do that?
No.
Okay, well I am. It doobie.
Oh, doobie.
You can and also should support us at patreon.com/chatspod. An exciting announcement over there. You can back the Patreon and get bonus content right now at $1. Nope. At $2 a month.
No.
Currently.
No.
What's commentary at?
Isn't it 3?
No, Magellan, you're being ridiculous, dude.
It's always been 2?
Yeah, dude. I think it's 2.
We have it at 2 and 5?
Yeah, it's 2 and 5. Let me just start this part over.
Sorry.
It's okay. I also goofed up a couple times. You also can and should consider supporting us on Patreon. Our Patreon is patreon.com/chatspod. Currently at $2 a month, you can get our monthly commentary Chats podcast, where we watch a movie with you every month and talk over it. At $5 a month, you get Chats Nights, where every 2 weeks, Magellan and I accept listener suggestions for what to read or watch, or we just kind of hang out. And it's a really fun show that I recommend you listen to.
Yeah.
If we are able to reach $50 a month on that Patreon, then those tiers will be going down to $1 and $3 respectively. And then once we hit that tier as well, at $5 a month, you'll be getting pilot chats, where you get to hear us pilot new shows to do for the next season of Chats, which is a fun little perk.
I just want to double down on mentioning that shift in the tier structuring.
Yeah.
Like if you're in the position where it's like, oh, I want to back these guys, I like them, but like $5 a month, I could do XYZ with that money. I get it. I'm there with you. And we want to get to the point where we can just have like a bunch of people who are tossing us $1 every month, and that adds up, right? That would be sort of ideal. And then really rewarding the people who have stuck with us and funded us for a while by continuing to create new content and respond to the community and, get your feedback and your input and kind of open up the production of this show to be a shared thing among lots of different people. So for us, like, choosing the next show to watch is a big choice because, Babylon 5 is something we're going to be watching for over a year on this show, right? And so I think before we picked Babylon 5, we must have piloted probably 6 shows or something.
I think
6
so,
or 7
yeah.
different shows. Maybe 8. I don't even remember. And at every kind of juncture, we've done similar, like, watch 3 shows, figure out which one we like the most. So we thought it would be cool to let people in on that process and get some feedback on what you find the most interesting. Because also for us, we want this to be a show where people follow us from show to show. And that only really happens if you're a part of the process. So, that's what I got for that.
I'll try to be putting up polls with pilot chats if and when we reach that goal, so that people who back at that level
we've got
vote.
We've got some ones that we want to do, and then we would love to just get suggestions. Like if you have a favorite show that you don't think gets a lot of play, but you think people would really like to listen to a podcast about, we'd love to hear that. Because that's how we discovered Babylon 5. It was suggested to us.
exactly
by listeners. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So definitely check that stuff out. We're currently at $45 a month, so we're like we're
like
so
basically
close.
there. We just need 1, 2, 3 more people to hop on the bandwagon, and the whole game could change.
Right. And you get to be a part of that, and you get to help out. So please consider checking it out. Magellan, that's enough for our shameless financial plugs. What is your Chatzylon for this week?
My Chatzylon for this week is a friend of mine a couple days ago, or maybe a week ago at this point, texted me and said, "Hey, I'm watching this like British game show that I think is made for your brain, and you should watch it." And I think other people should watch it too. It's like all on YouTube, which, those things, do I condone that? No. Am I watching it? Yes. So does that mean I condone it? Yes, I guess it does. It's a show called Only Connect. And the way that Only Connect works is there are 2 teams of 3. Everything that they do, they're cooperating with their teammates. The first round is there are 4 words or pictures or sound bites or names or whatever that are revealed to your team one by one. The more of the things you reveal, the easier it is to guess at what you're trying to guess at, which is the theme that connects all of them. And it could be like something like all of these are words that spell something else backwards, or it could be like all of these are prime ministers from the 50s, or I don't know, like stuff like that.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
And every time you reveal a clue, there are fewer points that you could get in that round. So if you can get the connection from just seeing one thing, you get 5 points, and then progressively less. That's the first round. And then the second round is you can see up to 3 things, and you have to guess what the 4th thing would be in the sequence. But they don't tell you what the sequence is about. So you have to get the connection and then guess the 4th thing.
Huh.
And then the round after that is like they give you a grid of 16 things, and you have to find the 4 groups. And then the round at the end is... what's the round at the end? The round at the end, I don't know. They might change this in future seasons, is my hunch. I'm not sure. But the round at the end is they like give you the word or the name, but they take all the vowels out.
Missing vowels.
And they tell you what the category is, and you have to guess what the thing is based on that. I'm not crazy about that round, but the other rounds I think are really cool. So check it out. It's a fun show to just kind of toss on in the background, and it's one of those game shows that's like hard, Yeah,
it sounds brutal.
It's like brutally hard, and you'll get maybe one thing right at home in an episode. But when you do, you're like, oh yeah,
I'm the smartest
smart. Oh yeah.
I love game shows like that. Deliberately obtuse.
What's your Chatzylon?
My Chatzylon this week is a Netflix original anime series that I recently watched the 2nd season of. It's called Agretsuko. Mm-hmm. It's based on a Sanrio property. Sanrio, like the people who made Hello Kitty and that whole brand. And Agretsuko herself is a 25-year-old red panda, anthropomorphic red panda.
Sure.
The premise of the series is that she works in an office, working a pretty boring job in Japan, and it's just about her, like, life, love, friendship, learning what to live for, that kind of thing. It's a lot smarter than it kind of comes off as at first, because it is a cartoon, and it is a little bit dark, but I definitely wouldn't put it in the same category as like a BoJack Horseman, where a lot of the point is like, look how real this is. It's mostly just deeply relatable. Like, it's not only the fact that I'm literally like a couple days away from being the same age as Retsuko, but just like she has a lot of people in her life who encourage her to, like, her mom. She has like this whole relationship with her mom in the 2nd season, who's always trying to like match her up with guys, and she definitely wants to be in a relationship, but you know, she also wants to focus on her career, and she has like this best friend who worked in the office for a while and then quit to start her own business, and she's like really jealous because it seems really freeing as a woman to be able to do that, but the other friend is like having trouble running her own business, and you know, she has a terrible boss, and the first season's all about her like trying to, you know, give one to her boss and have him learn how shitty of a dude he is in this like toxic environment at work. It's really, really charming. It's also pretty funny. The sort of like narrative hook of it is that the reason it's called Agretsuko is it's a portmanteau of aggressive Retsuko, Retsuko meaning red panda, and the character's name. And so her whole thing is whenever she gets really angry and whenever like life is getting frustrating, she goes to karaoke at night by herself and just screams to heavy metal music. And like the scenes where she's doing that are really funny because they just like make it like hyper saturated. She's got like blood pouring out of her eyes and stuff, and she's like, you know, rah, 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 and yelling about stuff, and then she comes out of it like, that was really refreshing and good. And sometimes people will see her do that and be like, damn, all of that? You had all of that in your head? Because she's normally such a timid, like nice girl. I really love it. I think it's really funny and just charming. Also, a big sell for me is that all the episodes are about 15 minutes long, and it's 2 10-episode seasons. So you could do the whole series in an afternoon if you wanted to. And there's good arcs, too. Like, there's a fake Elon Musk in the second season, which is a whole thing. She dates the fake Elon Musk. It's great. Definitely check it out. It's called Agretsuko, Aggretsuko. It's on the flicks. And that, dear listener, is going to do it for this episode of Chatzylon 5. Peace.